Hi everyone, welcome to the Prescott Sunrise Lions Show presented by the Prescott Media Center at Prescott Armory. I am David A. Snyder, CPA, MBA, and EA with David A. Snyder, CPA. I am a member of the Prescott Sunrise Lions. Please go to PrescottSunriseLionsClub.org to see the projects we participate in, and come to our meeting every Thursday at 7 a.m. at Waffles and More. Very delicious there, by the way, Waffles and More. But Thursday at 7 a.m. Every Thursday at 7 a.m. at Waffles and More. We meet there every day, every Thursday. So come by and check it out. We are coming up on tax credit season. In fact, we are deep inside of the tax credit season. I put some money in before I came here for tax credits. Keep in mind that there are 4 eligible tax credits right now. The Arizona Military Family Relief Fund is no longer accepting tax credit monies for 2018 because they've met their cap of $1 million. However, there's 4 other ones. There's a school tuition tax credit, which is $2,203, married filing jointly, and half of that other statuses. There's the public schools. It's $400 married filing jointly and $200 other statuses. There's the foster care, $1,000 married filing jointly and $500 other statuses. And the charitable organization tax credit, which used to be called the working poor tax credit, and that is $800 married filing jointly and $400 other statuses. And again, it used to be called the working poor tax credit. We emphasize that at our Lions Club, Prescott Sunrise Lions Club. But if you happen to owe $4,800 to the Fed, and you paid into these tax credits, all of them, and you're married filing jointly, and you paid in $4,800, you would owe nothing, and you would get any withholdings back. If you owed $2,000 and you paid in $4,800, then you can carry forward that extra $2,800 up to 5 years. You still owe nothing, and you get your withholdings back. So it's a no-brainer to me. Now, there's a federal component to this. That there used to be a federal component to this, but they just did legislation that got rid of that federal component. But I think there's going to be some litigation to try to get that back so that it helps you on your federal too. But right now, we're just talking about Arizona and the tax credit for Arizona. So make sure you pay into these programs. There's for the school tuition, for example, you can go to Sacred Heart, you can go to Primavera. There's a variety of other schools that you might private schools that you might be able to take advantage of. Now, the public schools we're going to talk about a little bit later. That's $400 to any public school in the area in Arizona. And then in the foster care, that would be something like Casa for Kids. And then the charitable organization tax, of course, the Lions Club, but there's other organizations out there. But emphasize Lions Club because that's what we're talking about today. But again, it's not necessarily going to help you with the Fed this year unless you did it before August 27th, because that came out 4 days before that and said, oh, well, we're going to change that a little bit. But take advantage of all these tax credits. They're really they only help you. You don't owe the state anything. If you don't owe the state or it lessens the amount you owe the state, then it's really helpful to you, and you can control where you send your money to as opposed to sending it down to the state and they figuring it out for you and wasting it on what they want to waste it on. So our guest today is Danielle Cummings of the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind. Danielle, did you know that Lions Clubs were originally a business organization, but in the 1920s, Helen Keller asked us to become the Knights of the Blind?
I did not know that.
That's what happened. So that is the show. So this show is right up our alley. We're the Knights of the Blind.
Right.
We help the blind and the deaf, and sight and hearing. That's our first plank of Lionism, along with hunger, environment, childhood cancer, and now the most recent one is diabetes. So I just want to let you know that Helen Keller. Historic. This is history.
Yes.
And it's 100 years old. We started in 1917.
Wow.
So glad to have you here.
It's wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
Yes.
I had a question for you about the school tax credit. So if I want to give some of my $400 to one school and some of my $400 to another, can I do that?
Yes, you can split it up.
Excellent.
But in your case, you're filing a single, right?
Yes.
So that would be $200.
Okay, so I could give $100 to one place and $100 to another. So if
Absolutely.
my kids go to two different schools, a high school and a middle school, I can give half to
Yes.
each. That's excellent.
Yes.
I really like the school tax credit, and I've participated for as many years as I've been in Arizona that it's been allowed. And I just really like getting to know where my money goes and getting to pick that myself.
Yeah.
And not letting somebody else decide that for me.
Absolutely. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I always was excited when I first moved here and found out about all this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great. So Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind is a little older than your program. We were formed in 1912.
Really? 5 years older?
Yeah.
105, 106 years now.
Yeah,
That's
we
excellent.
just had our 100th anniversary. We have a beautiful campus in Tucson, and it has a small little museum, which is very quaint, and it's run by an alum, and she is a very sweet woman who will take you through the history of the School for the Deaf and Blind, and specifically because it was mainly a boarding campus at that time.
Okay. Well, that's how they viewed that. They boarded them.
Yes, and especially because there wasn't very many students, the students went to Tucson and stayed and lived on campus, and then that way they could centralize the teachers,
Okay.
and also the students had social benefits
Interaction.
from that. So
Interactions with people that
yes.
were like them.
Yeah, so the campus is still running, is still going strong, and we still have a boarding component, but there are a lot more programs available now, and we serve about 2,000 students all over Arizona.
And the technology is much better now, so that you can serve them.
The technology is incredible.
Yeah.
I specifically work with students who are blind or visually impaired, and we have things that's Bluetooth to iPhones that can read them Braille. We have magnification equipment that can do distance and near for students in the classroom, taking notes from the board, and then also looking at a book. We have some really incredible devices. They all cost a lot of money, as you can imagine, but I also have to stay on top of all of that. So it's a lot of work to make sure that I know enough. I find that the students sometimes, they teach me a lot of things, and they end up being the experts in most of the equipment because they use it on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And our phones will talk to us. We have all sorts of audio equipment, and on the hearing inside, many hearing aids now connect straight with the phone, and with a lot of the web services, web meetings, will connect directly, so that there isn't an extra step in trying to get that audio. So that's a really nice perk as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So do you have those glasses that read labels?
I'd love to get some of those for my students. I don't have any yet. We don't have any students using those. Some of them called Google Glasses, or there's a couple different products out there. Iris Vision is another one. It's like a virtual reality goggle. And it actually will magnify or adjust for that student's needs. And so that's really cool. I could see our students using those types of things on a regular basis once they, maybe 5-6 years from now. We're not quite there yet. So we teach them all of the traditional skills, because all of that tech, the batteries die.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. Wi-Fi goes out, or they're in an area where they don't have Wi-Fi. There's so many reasons. So we still do a lot of old school teaching with what looks like a typewriter. It's called a Perkins Brailler. And the students do learn all of the skills that they need, whether it's technology or non-tech devices. Yeah, so we find that is incredibly important. We call it tools in the toolbox. So the students can, depending on their situation and their needs, pull out whatever they might need for that situation. So if they're doing a TV interview or doing a class in a college, they would know what they needed for that event and can have the tools for that. So we are trying to prepare them for career readiness, and that includes a part of the teaching being a counselor, talking about jobs, summer programs, internships, anything that we can expose them to let them know that there's a lot out there and that they just need to find the right equipment for them for that need.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you're trying to prepare them for the equipment as well as not the equipment. Because, for example, I was in the military and we had the compass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they have GPS. So you have to be able to land nav with whatever you have,
Exactly.
as opposed to necessarily expecting the tech to work.
Exactly. You have to know, and you have to know what you need when. So that's also a part of the choices that we give the students. In math class, a certain magnifier might be appropriate, whereas in English class, they need something different. And so they just need to be able to be very flexible, and that's part of what we teach our students. So I work one-on-one with students, which I like a lot. I was a classroom teacher before this.
Math, right?
Yes, I was a math teacher, high school math teacher, and I loved it. And I feel that this has just sort of opened my eyes to a whole different part of teaching that I really enjoy as well. I get to stay with the students as they grow and go through school. So I'm the most consistent person in their education as they go from 5th grade to 6th grade to 7th grade, middle school, high school. I'm that person to say, I knew them when they were in elementary school, and we've already tried that. Let's try this now. So it really helps the team of teachers come up with better solutions when they're trying to brainstorm ideas for why is this not working in the classroom? Why is the student not understanding it? Is it the concept, or is it that they don't have access? So we are 100%, our main goal is access to education. So whether that means it needs to be enlarged, or it needs to be amplified for hearing, or if it needs to be interpreted, as in sign language. So giving them equal access. So whatever that teacher says, they have access to it. Every piece of paper that the child might get in a classroom, that they can see it. So that's our primary goal. And that includes college applications and
Absolutely.
websites and emails and anything that you can think of that you experience on a day-to-day basis that pops up into your face that even sometimes we have a hard time reading, right? Because it's in such small print.
Yeah.
So what do we do? What
I
kinds
didn't bring
of
my
tools?
glasses, but
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And so we walk them through all different scenarios like that. And in addition, try to give them exposure to things like the light rail in Phoenix, because they might not get that with their family. They may not have taken a trip down to ride the light rail. And what does that feel like? What is that like? How do you figure out which side of the road to be on? All of those things are lessons that we need to incorporate so that the students are prepared. And we don't want them to be scared and not leave the house. So they need to be able to cook. They need to be able to have fun and play sports and be able to go to the movies and go bowling, video games. All of these things we tackle on some level, whether it's specifically school education related or on that periphery, which we call the expanded core curriculum.
Okay.
So it's all of the other stuff that's involved, even just navigating the school. How do I get from my classroom to the bathroom? If you can't see and it's a new school and the teacher says, sure, you can go to the bathroom, we don't want our student to not have any idea how to get there or
Absolutely.
get back and get confused when they get back. So we go in ahead of time, teach them, this is the map of the school. This is how it works. This is the layout. These are the areas that you need to get to independently. So again, with access, it's also independence and not saying, oh, we can just have somebody do that with you. We don't want that. And we have students that need that. It's understandable. But we try to reduce that as much as possible. So we want them to be as independent as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So,
Besides being you
I
like
was
being a
I was a
teacher.
math teacher, and when my youngest son was born, it was very apparent that he had a visual impairment.
Yeah.
His eyes shake, so he has nystagmus, which you can actually induce with dizziness. Some people Actually, their eyes will start jitter. It almost looks like a jitter. And it took a long time to figure out what was wrong. A lot of doctors. And finally, they said, it actually took 8 years until I got this diagnosis, which it seems like a long time, but it wasn't until they started doing the retinal photographs in the optometrist's office. So that's a new technology that came about.
Yeah.
And now, when you go in for your checkup, most likely you have had someone take a picture of your retina. You might not have ever seen it. They look at it and they go, it's normal. They don't show it to you. But if there's something wrong with it, they may point it out and they may show you, we've got some scarring here or something. It turned out they don't have a fovea. So both of my sons actually don't have that. And it's that little dip in the retina that gives all of the sharpness to the vision. And sometimes even if something little goes wrong like that in the development of the eye and in the body, other things start to happen because of that. So if the signal isn't clear from the eye to the brain, there's a sort of a misfiring that happens, and that's why his eyes shake. So they can't stop it, and it reduces his visual acuity. So even with glasses, as you can imagine, glasses don't stop the eyes from shaking. It's over the top of the eyes. He still has some difficulty seeing regular print, so he needs things bigger, but he doesn't do Braille. We do only...
No, I need things bigger.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not a big deal. You know, something that we can do pretty easily is magnifying and asking teachers to, especially with all the electronic things that students have now, make it bigger. Laptops, you can make it bigger. You can increase the print size. Control+, if you don't know that, is the greatest tool ever, because a lot of people just find certain websites or certain emails are just too small. And so you just hit Control+, pretty much any computer, it'll work. It enlarges it. We do still deal with students who, even with Control+, it's still not big enough. So when we get to that point, and when print reading becomes too laborious, like if, for example, if it needed to be 72 point, like one word or 2 letters on a page, we say, this isn't working. We need to look at Braille. So we do assessments, and we look at the students' learning methods and learning modes. We look at the students' cognitive ability, and we decide Braille is going to be the most efficient method for reading.
Okay.
And some students pair that with audio. A lot of people ask, well, why don't you just let them listen to everything? And my feeling on that is I would never deny a child literacy. So, of course, we want them to read. Auditory isn't reading. And Braille reading, the tactile part of Braille reading, actually fires the same parts of the brain that vision reading does. So when you're reading print, even though it's touch. So even though the letters aren't the same shape, there's nothing, other than the grammar and all that's the same, it fires in the same parts of the brain. So it's reading, whereas listening is in a different part of the brain. So some kids don't comprehend very well with the auditory listening. Some children we have to find through assessments if they need it paired. A mix of Braille and audio, where it reads at the same time as they're reading, or a mix of print and audio, large print, for example, or just audio. And some kids are just print, right? So I've had lots of students come, I listened to that and I don't know what it said. But then they'll read it and they can answer questions about it, and vice versa. So every student's a little different. And so we tweak our individual education plan, or their IEP for their education, to adjust for their special needs. And that's part of what goes into learning how to do what I do, is learning child development, education, how it works, how we get and change these things. What tools can we use to pair audio with large print, for example? And there are a lot of resources and programs for that. So when parents hear, oh, I can do that and I can help with that, they're usually quite grateful and very happy to know that we've worked as hard as we have to get to this point where we can say we have a solution. We can help your child. And so is the school. School's very happy as well. And our partnerships with the schools are extremely important because they are the ones that have that child in their care. We have to come in and help. And so we're providing that access. We're not doing the teaching, we're providing the access. So whether that's Braille materials or an interpreter, it's that access that we really want that child to have. And so does the school. So it's a win-win. And we just adore the students and the schools that we work with here. We have an incredible area, I think.
You mean Yavapai County?
Yavapai County in general. I feel that the schools are just fantastic, and we have great partnerships that are, students are able to stay at home and not go to a boarding school and have that equal access.
Yeah, boarding school.
Yeah, in Tucson, and maybe the van may come up once a month for them here. So if you don't get to see your child but once a month, it would be very hard for most families. So to be able to say, no, you can stay here and you can stay with your family, your brothers and sisters, your cousins, your friends, and we can provide everything you need right here, is a big relief for a lot of families. I know having a son with a visual impairment, it's not severe to the point where he would need to go to campus, but it would be a big challenge for me if I was told that he needed to go to campus. I would want him to be able to stay here with my family. So,
unless you wanted to move down.
That would be an option if I wanted to move down, and so. That would be something I would consider, but I know that for some families that's really difficult because there's no, they don't have a job there, or
they don't have
support system isn't there. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me in terms of my kids, and they're doing fantastic. They're flourishing in their schools, and again, that's because of the support of the School for the Deaf and Blind to be able to come in and assist with that.
Now you have all Yavapai County.
Kind of, yeah. So I cover because Arizona serves all these children for we have 2,000 children approximately. We have our Tucson campus, and then we have Phoenix Day School for the Deaf is a part of our family, and the rest is served by what we call itinerant teachers. And so itinerant meaning they go to the kids instead of the kids going to a particular school where there's only students that have the same disability. They stay at their typical school and they get served by us. We go to them. So the geographic regions are split up into 5 areas, and the one that is where Yavapai County sits is North Central Regional Cooperative, and that covers 40,000 square miles.
Wow.
So it's a big area.
It really is.
It is. A little bit of that's the Grand Canyon.
But most of the time they come to you, right?
But no, and so we just started a new program where in Prescott Valley at Coyote Springs Elementary School, where the kids come to us because we're short on teachers.
Yep.
And because we
Qualified
have such a
trained
need
teachers.
For qualified trained teachers,
Yep.
we ended up needing to pool the kids into one elementary school. We have 10 students from different areas in the Quad Cities that come to that particular elementary school. And we just love it because we have them, then they have peers and they're not as isolated. So we find that that's really
That interaction
helpful.
probably helps significantly.
Yes. So I wanted to mention that the school tax credit you can give it to Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind because we are a public school.
Absolutely.
So if even just a portion you wanted to give, you can also write that as the title.
You hear that, people? Arizona
State
Schools for the Deaf
Deaf
and Blind.
ASDB.
You can give up to $400 married filing jointly and $200 other statuses.
And if you have other schools, you can split it. We'll take anything because these students really need the help, and we really appreciate it.
You know, I've done tax returns where I'm sitting there waiting for the people to decide whether they want to give money, where they want to give their money based on how much they owe. So if they owe $200, they could give the $200 to the state schools of deaf and blind. So make sure you emphasize that. Okay, make sure that you think about that in your giving.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so what kind of programs does the organization have?
So we have the early childhood program, which is birth to 3, and then the age 3 to age 22 or high school graduation is the other part of the program. So that would be considered our main itinerant base. And those are the teachers that live in that 40,000 square mile area for us. The rest of Arizona is different sections. And they go out to the students in the different schools. So it could be elementary, high school, middle school. And then we send them off to voc rehab for after high school. So vocational rehabilitation will take over from there and help them with jobs and placements in college.
What kind of vocations?
Well, for the visually impaired, we have the tech industries are big because there is the technology that they have been used to using, and as long as they have what they need for magnification, they can pretty much do any job that has any tech-related focus.
Okay.
That includes radiology and things that are, usually working computers.
Wow.
Yeah, so there are a lot of fields that right now that are tech driven, and that's a lot of what we see our students going into. So we really appreciate that, and we really like that because those are great fields, and they're always going to be able to find a job.
Now you see, do most of your students? I mean, are they all good results? I mean.
And we would like to think so.
I know it's kind of
it's tough.
vague question.
Yeah, we have some students who take a little extra time to get that maturity to be on their own. It's a difficult thing, and so we just try to support the family and the child as much as possible to encourage that independence and. As a whole for society, we want them to have job and to have work instead of being on disability. So the idea
Absolutely.
is to find them something they love to do so that they have that purpose.
Okay. Okay, so we at the Prescott Sunrise Lions Club would like to invite you to our club meeting, which is held at Waffles and More. I've said this a couple times. Waffles and More at 7 a.m. every Thursday. You will find that the club is friendly and fun, but we also are very engaged in the Prescott and Prescott Valley communities. We joke and laugh and fully understand our purpose in the community. We serve. That's our motto. If you want to be part of such a club, then become a member of our club. You want to become part of the group, become a member of our club. I want to thank the Prescott Media Center, Jim, Linda, and Emma for helping us with this program today. And thank you again, Danielle Cummings of the Arizona State Schools for the blind, the deaf and the blind. I got that backwards. For joining us and talking about your organization. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.